Welcome back to another episode of the I'm Not a Hater podcast, featuring your favorite not hater, Mr. Brown. I'm back again. Did say I was going to do this, so now I'm taking the time out to have a little story time. Give you a little insight, life's journey, to when I actually became a full time big brother. Okay, and now as crazy as it sounds, I am one of 10 children on my dad's side. So imagine the shock and you know all those emotions and feelings when you find out that you have siblings. Now, as a kid, I always had a feeling that I had some siblings running around, but I never knew. But thanks to my grandma, my aunt, my uncle, and my dad, for that matter, I was able to find out about them pretty quickly. So I'm gonna run it down, basically place by place. Timeline by timeline. So we're gonna jump back in the Wayback Machine, and we're gonna start back in 1993. Okay, and that began with me meeting, um, with me finding out. So I was about probably 7, 8 years old when I found out exactly that I had siblings. And like I said, I was shocked. Kind of felt it, as a kid. You kind of feel like it every time you go visit your dad. Somebody tell you, but you're really not listening because you're a kid. You're not paying attention, but whatever. And it's kind of like it is what it is. But I first met my sisters Tiana and Tanasia. They were the first siblings that I met, and I remember them being in the park. I was at this basketball game with my aunt and uncle, and they walked me over to a toddler girl and a girl that was in a stroller. So they had to be probably between 2 and I say 7, 8 months, right? And they like, oh, these your sisters, Tiana and Tanasia. I was like, okay, cool, no big deal. I was excited on the inside, but you still got to play it cool on the outside. Like, all right, okay, two down. Like, let's meet the rest. Um, came home, told my mom like, hey, I got two sisters. My mom was like, oh, okay, that's cool. I didn't know that. My mom really didn't know. Okay, so my mom had no idea what was going on. Um, I thought like the whole time that I was being set up for it, my mom had some idea, but she really didn't know. So okay, so I meet them. Like I said, I'm about 7, 8 years old when I meet them. Um, and, I'm playing it cool, like, all right, bet, okay, right. I got brother, I got sisters. All right. So I go back home, I don't think nothing of it for a while, and then I think it's like Christmas of that year or either the next year. It's either Christmas of that year or 94, 95 when I meet and not for nothing, probably the closest ones out of my sibling bunch because it's 10 of us. And with 10 different people, 10 siblings, it's 10 different attitudes, 10 different personalities. But the ones that I clicked with the quickest was probably the next three that I met. And that was Misha, Trayvon, and Davon. So my grandma would do things like every Christmas she would deliver gifts to them. Okay, so I was fortunate this time, that time when I met them, to travel with them, to meet, you know, to meet them and basically like go with my grandma to pass out the gifts. And again, not really placing a whole bunch into it. I was just kind of like, okay, cool, you know. These are another set. I got three sisters and two brothers. Okay, bet. And me and Misha kind of locked eyes and connected, and the journey was growing. Like we started to kick it more. Grandma would have them come up. I would go visit them, etc., etc. So we build a relationship. Um, and for the longest period of time, it was Tiana, Tanasia, Misha, Trayvon, and Davon. That was what I felt like, or at that point, was the end of the sibling cycle for me at that very moment. But as time goes on, um, you start to find out more. So now I hear about Herman. My next set, Herman and Deidre. And like I said, it's 10 of us, it's 10 different personalities, probably the hardest person to crack. And again, now time has passed, so the rest of us, or I've integrated myself into the sibling group, so now we often running, we kicking, we hanging out at grandma's house, or Juju as I call her. We hanging out at her house, we kicking it all the time. They come up in the summer. Like I said, my dad go and get them. We click. We might as well have grown up in the same house. That's how we was rolling along. So then I think I might have been about 15 or so, 15, 14 or 15 when I met Herman and Deidre. Now, again, like I said, Herman was tough to crack because he had this kind of built up animosity or whatever you want to say towards, my dad or whatever the case may be. Um, when you kids, you angry at your parents for various reasons and stuff that may not have been in their control at the time, but he was angry. So our first interaction wasn't that great, right? Because I'm always gun ho, like I'm team dad no matter what indiscretions or problems or situations, whatever. I'm still rocking with you because you're my parent. Now this type of generation that we in now, we like, oh no, you got to do an X, Y, and Z. I'm not built that way. That's my parent. I'm rocking with him till the end of time, whatever the case is. He was young and figuring it out, and just let that be what it is, right? Because we become parents and we need the same grace and the same grace and given to us as parents eventually. So I always give my dad utmost respect and grace and love. Because of him we all here, so that is what it is. But getting back to the story, so me and Herman was difficult because Herman was like, he was really, he come at your neck, he come at your throat, he want to know what, why, when, where, why you here, how come you always at grandma house, how come you this, that, and the third. And it was difficult because I'm just like, yo, I'm here to meet you, I'm here to kick it with you, I'm just here to let you know, like, yo, I'm your big brother. But it ain't no crazy junk, because it's just like, yo, I'm your big brother, it is what it is. And then we just keep it moving. And that was kind of what it was for me, but he felt differently. So we met that year at like 14, when I was about 14, 15. But it took us getting in our adult lives for everybody to realize, like, yo, parents make mistakes, but it shouldn't hold back on our relationship as siblings. So we kind of all had to make decisions on what we was going, how we was going to handle it, how we was going to move forward. And most of us have chosen to move forward with us being a sibling unit. Now, like I said, it's 10 people, it's 10 different personalities. Not everybody's gonna be on board, but you love everybody where they at, and you can't force it, so you just make the best of it when it is. But man, Herman and Deidre, one more year passes. I'm about 16 years old. My dad pulls up on me. Dad pulls up on me at my grandma's house, like, yo, his wife at the time was pregnant. All right. So I've now met the majority. Again, Misha, Davon, Trayvon, Herman, Deidre, Tiana, Tanasia. I met them all. He's saying that he got a baby on the way. So I'm like, all right, cool. I'm 16. Again, not a big deal because we don't all live together. If we had lived together, this would be extremely crazy because you already got like 7 or 8 kids already. What are you talking about? There's number 9 coming. Okay. All right, bet. So we get there, Jaden comes. Now it's like, all right, big brother mode for real. And the difference, like, Jaden is the 10th kid, so the difference between 1 and 10 is basically 16 years. And we got the typical big brother little brother relationship. Like, at that point, you're saying he say crazy stuff, I just kind of be like, yeah, okay, kid. And kind of keep it pushing. We was playing 2K heavy on the PS4 5 for a minute, or PS3 and 4 back then on the 4 minute. Um, Whenever he would come visit, because he had moved away, I'd pull up on him, see about him, even took him back home a couple times. Um, back to Maryland. Um, but it's a typical little brother with a big brother, but there's a gap between this type of relationship. It is what it is. But he get just as much love as I do. Number 1 and number 10. We not to shade anybody else that's in the number, but we get a lot of love for being the first and the last. Um and that's kind of that. Now that's where it stopped for a long, long, long period of time. Um because he was born, he was born in like 2002, 2001, 2002, somewhere around there. Um, and yeah, it was quiet. It was crickets. So that's what the sibling group was now. It was me at the top, right? Kenneth, and then Misha, Trayvon, Davon, Tiana, Herman, Tiaja, Deidre, Jaden. That's where it was. And, it was like, all right, cool. This is a nice little crew of siblings to have, And then what year was that? Was it 2012, 2013? Okay. So this is where the story gets just a tad bit crazy. All right. So I get a message in my inbox, right? And I could tell this story now because we've been kicking it for at least 10 to 11 years or so. I get a message in my inbox like, yo, I think you now, okay, let me go back. Let me run it back with all the details. Okay, so on Facebook at the time, right? So me and my dad basically was using the same name. And if you don't know, my full name is Kenneth Brown. So me and my dad was both using it. Now, Kenneth is his middle name. So it could be confusing when you online, um, and you was looking us up at the time, right? You might have thought that I was him. A lot of his friends thought I was him on Facebook, etc., etc., until they started talking to me and they realized it was me. But they all call me Jermaine or Mano, or whatever. They don't call me Kenneth. You'd be hard pressed to find somebody who knows my dad that'll call me Kenneth. I think maybe one or two people. But anyway, got an inbox message saying, "Yo, you might be my dad." So I'm like, this dude look old, so I don't know. Don't know how he might think I'm his dad, but okay, yo, what's your name? So he tell me his name or whatever, and I'm like, all right, just let me check right quick. So I hit my aunt up like, you know what, Darrell Snow? She like, it sound familiar. It sound like the kid that was in New Haven saying, that they were saying that that's your brother. So I get back on Messenger. Yo, listen, you not you're not my son, but you're actually my brother. So he's like, what word? I said, yeah. I said, now where the coincidence comes in that is that my name and your dad's name is basically the same. So I'm gonna put you in contact with who you need. So I put him in contact with my grandma and my aunt. They start talking, yada yada yada. We connect the dots and get the clues. My dad turns out to be his dad. Boom. So after that, I think we meet up that Thanksgiving. So my family's there. He comes through. The twins came. I think the twins was there. So Trayvon and Davon, Misha came. There was a lot of people in grandma's house. Grandma was smiling, feeling good. She got most of her grandkids in her house. And at that point, we was like, yo, that makes number 10. But we had to figure out where he fit in the line at. So then we start plugging away at the numbers, right? And we like, yo, okay, so he's the same age as Trayvon and Davon, and Tiana. So, all right, when were you born? He goes, January. All right, so now you number 3. You're in the number 3 spot. So it goes, it's me first, obviously, like I said, number 1. Then it's Misha. Now it's Darrell. Then you got Trayvon, Davon, and I can't remember. They'll have to tell me like who's the older out of the two twins. But you got Trayvon and Davon. Then you got Tiana. Now you got Herman. Then you got Tanasia, Deidre, and then last but not least, you got Jaden. And so at that point, I people always ask me like, "Yo, you claim all 10?" Now, disclaimer: at certain points in time, I did not. I was only claiming like a good 6, because when people hear 10 siblings, they go, "What? Your parents had them?" And you go, "Nah, you're not my parents. Like my dad had 10 kids," and you got to do all this explanation and explaining. So, yo, truthfully, before I realized like, yo, it's really 10 of us, like you got a starting 5 plus a bench. Like I was only claiming like 5 or 6 of them in reality, but I love them all. They're all doing good things in the world. Like, everybody's doing good. Like I can't really sit here and say that none of them are, you see them and they out here struggling. Everybody's doing what they want to in the world, freely. And they living good. Every time we see each other, like I said, it's all love. It's no, you know there's no ill will, no hard feelings. I personally do wish that we had grown up together at some point. um I do feel like that our relationships and bonds might have been stronger if we did, but things happen for a reason. um but as adults, I think that we do a good job of keeping up with each other, checking in. uh and for me personally, they all were there for me during my deepest times of loss. And I have to say, like, I definitely, if I never told them, like, I definitely appreciated it, because you need that sibling love, that somebody to say, "Yo, bro, I got your back," or "Bro, just checking in, saying that I love you," or you know whatever the case is, like, and they love their nephews. I love my nieces and nephews as well. Like, we are family. Is different. Is in some instances it's fragmented. It's not normal, but it works for us. Like I said, it could be better, but it is what it is, man. We still hold each other down no matter what. We are Brown's kids to the end of the earth, to the end of the world. But this has just been a little bit of a story time. Just wanted to kind of get that out because it's always been interesting to me. Hopefully it's interesting to you. If it is, like, subscribe, comment, tell a friend, and tell a friend. This is the I'm Not a Hater podcast. This is just a little bit of a break, story time with Mr. Brown, and I'll be back with another episode soon. Peace and love, and I'll see you later.